Hello to all my 3D girls. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hey everybody, Chris Gethard here, welcoming you to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. Thank you guys for supporting it and allowing me to do it. Chris Gethard Show is also up and running now, another one of my gigs. It's up tonight, actually. If you're downloading this on Tuesday when it comes out, Tuesday is like Gethard Day now. Beautiful Anonymous in the morning, Chris Gethard Show at night on True TV. And tonight's episode's all call-ins. I think I just like phones, and maybe Beautiful Anonymous fans want to check it out. Who knows? I'm not going to plug it too hard. We're going to get going talking about Beautiful Anonymous. You may notice the tone of both this intro and the call itself a little different than you're used to. Not in the studio. Jared was nice enough to come to the Chris Gethard Show offices to record a bunch of stuff because my life is crazy with our launch weeks happening. Thank you to Jared for that. The stern taskmaster of the show, Jared O'Connell, as the fans have come to believe, even though I've told you up and down that's not true, but people do in the Facebook group all the time say that they believe that, which is an endless source of joy to us all here at Beautiful Anonymous. Last week's episode, Whirlpool Galaxy, a very heart-wrenching episode, a huge amount of response in the Beautiful Anonymous Facebook community. Understandably, people were very touched, blown away by it. And I will say I was uplifted being in the Beautiful Anonymous Facebook group. Just an outpouring of support and warmth. Jen left a comment that I don't know why, this one really got to me. There were so many like this, but Jen said she's one of the strongest people in the universe, and with each word my heart broke a bit more. Caller, you are an inspiration to others and will make change in this world. I am truly sorry for all you have gone through and will be hoping for more positive people to enter your life and the negative to stay far away. Thank you for sharing, and I guarantee you have helped many by doing so. You have this community behind you. And I don't know why, that made me well up. That line, you have this community behind you. I don't know why. That one hit me in the gut really hard, but it's true. Also, just want to remind you guys, we're later this week, any episodes of Beautiful Anonymous older than 6 months are going on Stitcher Premium. They'll be behind a paywall, effectively. Stitcher Premium is a great service. Tons of shows on there. All the Earwolf shows, I believe, are having the same thing. Anything older than 6 months now, you got to pay for. Luckily, if you want to sign up, free month, use the code STORIES. You get a free month of the service. You can check it out, see all the great stuff on there. And if you don't want to sign up, I would just say you have 3 or 4 days after this is released to just download the old ones. Everyone's cool with that. Just anything you want to keep for your personal collection, go ahead and grab it now. Now's the time to do it. This week's episode, fun one, interesting one. This is a caller who is trapped between worlds in a very real way. When this caller started speaking, I was completely flabbergasted when he told me where he was from. And you'll see why right away. I think you'll also let out a big, huh? Like I did. But it becomes very clear how the caller came to be who they are, both verbally, culturally, all these different things. This is a caller who really has insight into multiple worlds and is also maybe separate from any of those worlds in a way that's very rare, very fascinating. I also found this caller to just straight up be fun. I thought we had good chemistry. I had a good time talking. And speaking specifically about a culture, Japan, that I think as Americans in particular, we often sort of like romanticize or even weirdly fetishize in certain ways. And this caller was able to give us some insight from multiple perspectives. And I found it really cool. And I hope you do too. Enjoy the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hold on, I can't hear you in my headphones. I hear it coming through Jared's headphones. Give us just 1 second here.
Oh, you don't hear it?
No. Harry
Hello?
hears it. Jared hears it.
Does he hear you?
Do you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
I can hear the fact that there's someone in Jared's headphones.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Okay, we're holding for technical difficulties. I apologize.
It should work.
Oh, not at all.
Ah, there we go.
Hello?
Hi. Some people would say edit that out. I'm going to say let's leave that in Say, let's leave that in our old podcast. How are you?
I'm calling in from Japan.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a way to kick down the door in the beginning of your call.
Yeah, this is an international call, I guess.
I don't think we've ever had. Have we had a call from Japan? I don't think we have.
Really? So I'm first.
You are. I don't even know if we've had a call from Asia.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you might be the first on your continent. We've had Australia and Europe. I don't think we've had. I don't know. I think you're
Hell yeah.
you're breaking new ground. So what's up? How are you?
That's awesome. Hi, I'm great. I'm from Tokyo, Japan. You probably hear this all the time, but huge fan of the show, and you definitely helped me out a lot. And I don't know how people find you out overseas, because we don't get HBO and stuff in Tokyo.
Yeah.
But I found you out through actually the punk music scene.
Nice. Jeff Rosenstock. I'm betting you're a Jeff Rosenstock fan.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Because I think he goes to Japan on a pretty regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, one of the bands that I really liked played on your show, Reviver. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Reviver. Out there from the Pacific Northwest. Cut the Cord. Great band.
Yeah, I like their old band, Ladderman, a lot.
Uh-huh.
And the reason why I was why I found out your show was actually through the fest, and you had the Chris Gethard Show on the fest.
Yeah, Gainesville, Florida.
Yeah. So I found you through that, watched all the episodes. I'm actually I'm going through all your archives on YouTube and just watching all that too.
I love it. I just want to say to any of the listeners out there, this is not a paid advertisement. This is not a plant or setup. Though I will say this caller has fantastic taste, and everyone should go through the archives of the Chris Gethard Show. Get yourself hooked in anticipation of our new season.
Yeah. So sorry if it sounds like I'm sure you hear that a lot, but
Oh, it's nice. It's very nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah. I love your stuff, and I love you. I watched that 40-minute video of you talking about Morrissey. Love that
Thomas
video.
Lennon. Me and Thomas Lennon.
Yeah.
That's cool. So wait, you said you're from Tokyo, Japan. So you're born and raised?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm pure Japanese.
Wow.
Both of my parents are Japanese, but I went through the American education system in Japan.
Oh, one of the international schools.
Yes. So it's actually one of the things that I wanted to talk about was that it's really weird, because I think you could probably tell that I don't really sound Japanese.
No.
If I didn't say that I was.
Yeah, I mean, when you said you were born and raised there and are not you're not the child of expats, I'm actually shocked by that.
No.
You sound like you're from Southern California.
Yeah, I get that a lot. But it's really weird because my lingo and the culture that I grew up in is purely I grew up listening to American bands. I listen to Japanese bands too, but it's created this really weird dynamic where when I'm hanging out with people that are purely Japanese, that went through the whole Japanese educational system, they think that I'm a foreigner. They think they don't really see me as Japanese. And when I hang out with people from America or anywhere outside of Japan, they see me as Japanese. So I'm kind of there was a time, and I'm still going through it, but I don't really know what my identity is.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you this about that, because you're kind of stuck between two cultures. How does it work as far as attending the international schools? My understanding is that a lot of children of diplomats will go to Western schools when they're in non-Western nations that are set up for them. But I don't know that I was aware that that they're for anything but that. But I'm also an ignorant human being, so explain it to me.
No. So there's a lot of people that come to Japan like expats, as in people that have businesses overseas, and they bring their families over to Japan, and then their company pays for their education, because going to an international school is not cheap. Mm-hmm. So they pay for housing and also their education, and they get to go to international schools. Some schools have a lot of military people in their schools, which our school didn't as much, but because we have bases in Japan, and those are obviously where all the military kids go. But it was sometimes celebrities or kids of celebrities or kids of people that had a lot of power, I guess, were in my school. So, but for me, it was really weird because both of my parents are Japanese. The company obviously didn't pay for my education, so it was just my father's kind of, he worked really hard and he put me through this education, and now I talk like this.
And was his thought that, it would be good for you to be immersed in a different culture? Was it the idea of like, oh, you'll learn English, which will be useful for you professionally later in life? Was it just an appreciation of multiculturalism? What was the impulse with your parents taking this leap?
Oh, he definitely was looking for, business opportunities. Business opportunities and just, culture in general. He thought it was something that if he had the money to be able to put me through it, then it was good education, I guess. And just, it would make me into a more modern human being, I think is the mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's trying to set you up for like a modern multicultural future where you can have the career of your choice. And then
exactly. Yeah.
You turn into one of them dirty punk rockers.
Yeah, right.
How do you like that?
And then not much. He doesn't really like it. It's very, very Japanese, where when you try to have a real conversation with your father. Oh yeah, something I should say is that in Japan, a lot of times the mother is a stay-at-home mother, and the father is always working. And it's kind of a stereotype that I hear a lot, where the father's always working, never hangs out with the kids in Japan because they're so busy. It's like the businessman life. And there's definitely some truth to that. And so I didn't know what my father did as a job until I graduated college.
That can't be true.
No, seriously. I was like, oh, you use English, but I don't really know what you do. So I had to sit him down, and I was like, Dad, I'm 20. What do you do? I should know this.
You never asked him before that, and he never told.
I did ask him before, kind of like, oh, Dad, what do you do? But he just never gave me a straight answer, because I think he didn't think that I would understand even if he told me.
What does he do that's so complicated?
Right. This is the very Japanese part. And it was funny because he was so awkward about me asking him. What he did was he just kind of gave me the outline that he always did, and he gave me his business card and said, this is what I do.
And what did you have to go Google it yourself? What happened?
No, I was like, so yeah, what do you do? Like, what's the, and yeah, before that I definitely Googled him and I did find him, but it was kind of weird for the son to not really know. And I just said, hey, I need to know. I should know this because people ask me, and all I can say is like, oh, he works in an international company, but it's like, I can't really give anybody specifics. So I just asked him, and he said, this is what I do. And he just gave me his business card, and, really awkward after that, but now I know what he does.
Is it like anything mind blowing, or were you just like, I was like, oh, wow, it made sense why he put me into a international school. I was like, oh, this probably is a lot of money, but it wasn't anything too surprising, just because he was always going to different countries. He was never home. And all in all, I barely know my dad. Yeah. I mean, that's intense. Do you, so you barely know him? I mean, do you guys get along, or is it just like, is it a cold relationship?
It's really weird because in Japanese culture, there's this thing called Honne and Tatemae, and that is kind of your outside face and your inside face. And he usually in the family or like with your friends, you have your kind of inner self and you release who you are and all that, stuff like that. But in the family, there's this, you kind of have, it seems like it's happy, but you know that there's no feeling in it. And I feel like growing up with that, and then the moment I noticed that was happening and we were kind of this, like, almost like a caricature of a family, not really, there was no real heartwarming moments. And I realized, oh, my mom doesn't really like my dad. And it kind of created this independency inside of me from a pretty early age.
Wow. I will say this is like a very surface level reaction, but it's a true one. It's really, I gotta say, it's really amazing to me that there really is a Western world and an Eastern world, huh? Like everything you're describing to me, I'm like, wow, it's I mean, people are people wherever you go, but there are just a set of different experiences that you've had.
Yeah. And like, another thing that I think is related to that is that the cheating on your wife in Japan is almost to the point where it's not even looked down on. It's kind of part of the culture.
Whoa.
Yeah, and you see, that's just something that I don't really agree with, but it's, there's a celebrity here that is famous for saying cheating is a culture, and but what it is it's not emotional cheating. It's extremely superficial. That's a big reason why the whole sex industry in Japan is so prevalent. Like everybody just goes, like when they're a salaryman or even college kids, I guess.
Really? So that's not just for tourists. That's not just for tourists to engage in while on vacation. That's like part of the culture.
Yeah, I think Japanese people enjoy the happy endings more than the tourists.
Wow. We're going to go there.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're just going, I'm going to say something blunt. Our viewers should brace ourselves. It's sounding to me, this is a sentence I never thought I would say. So is it almost viewed as like a form of masturbation in a way?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like, I mean, people just go there. People, I guess, like, I've never been because I've grown up in a Western mindset, so it was always very foreign to me. But I think I had friends that in college and stuff that would go, and yeah, it doesn't really seem like they're having sex. There's no communication, I think. It's just kind of do it and leave. And it would be like, hey, we're going to go do this for a bit. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home once. And then when they're done, you go out and then drink again, kind of thing.
Wow. So you'd be out drinking with friends. They'd be like, hey, we're going to go down the red light district, have a little fun. And you'd be like, cool, I'm going to go watch some TV, text me. Wow. And some of it, okay, because I'm a curious person, and I've read, I try to be worldly. Some of these are also, from what I've read, and I've never been to Japan, and this is all just stereotypes. Correct me for anything that's inaccurate. Please let me know where I'm being ignorant. Mm-hmm. But it is fun to talk about and be like, here's the stuff I've heard. What's true, what's not. I've heard some of this is like very fetish based, right? There's a lot of fetish based businesses of this nature.
Yeah. It's there's some really dark stuff here because that's just, I think I do a lot of reading and playing music. That's interesting. There's another like whole subculture here where people do intense, extreme things during their shows, and that's a lot of it is, just extreme live shows. And I guess one of the most famous one, not famous, but something that I heard that just blew my mind was there would be a punk show. We have an area in Tokyo that's kind of known for where all the bad punk guys, the old punk guys are, and they do eccentric shows. And one dude apparently just starts singing and takes a knife and starts stabbing himself. I mean, that's like the most extreme. That's not like you go to a random venue in Tokyo and people are just like stabbing their stomachs. But
did he die?
That's just no. I think they just bleed and then they're like, "Look how intense I am. This is I'm punk rock."
So Japan has like multiple Gigi Allens.
Yeah, they don't throw shit at people. But yeah, it's
I should explain. You and I should team up and explain for any of our listeners. You know, a lot of the listeners have heard me talk about punk a lot, and I think a lot of our listeners do not partake or listen. Gigi Allen is perhaps known as the most extreme punk of all time. He was known for going on stage naked and performing sex acts and vomiting on purpose and cutting himself and shitting, like you said, punching audience members in the face. Kept threatening that he was going to commit suicide on stage. He's like a notorious, like violent, clearly damaged performance artist, punk rocker, whose music is almost unlistenable. Also, by the way, which is part of what people who like him like about it. It sounds like you guys got a real element of that in your punk scene over there.
I guess like people. I don't know if it's the Gigi Allen, but there's definitely some people do that. And I have to reiterate, the normal punk scene is probably the nicest scene. Like when people are moshing or when people are stage diving, everyone's so polite. So I don't want people to come to Tokyo that like punk rock and that would shun away from venues because they think everyone's killing each other. But there's definitely that extreme.
Yeah. So it's basically like it sounds like any subculture you find in Japan. It sounds to me like what we're maybe saying, because you've brought up both the music world and the sex industry. It's like, oh, you can keep finding more extreme fringe versions of it if you want to look.
Oh yeah. It's there's some stuff that I don't even know, and I watch documentaries of, foreigners coming to Japan and kind of looking into that. And I didn't even know that. That's how deep it goes. And I lived here my whole life.
Yeah. So you just avoid this. And you say a lot of this is because you went to an international school. So is it like, are you listening to like a lot of like romantic American love songs and watching like Hollywood movies about like people trying to settle down and find each other? And you're like, is that just a different approach? Is that part of it? Like you're immersed in a culture that, like, what? Yeah. Tell me about how it separates you. I just asked our caller about how things separate him, and to you, dear listener, I will now separate you from the next portion of the podcast with these ads. Today's show is sponsored by Talkspace, the online therapy company that lets you message a licensed therapist from anywhere at any time. Can't imagine fitting anything else into your life. I know the feeling. I'm a busy guy. Who has time in the day, right? Well, guess what? With Talkspace, therapy is as easy as sending your therapist a message. Get something off your chest whenever you need to. Talk about everyday challenges at work or at home, or just chat about life. And I know, so much going on. Look, with Talkspace, you don't have to commute anywhere. You don't even have to leave your office. Nobody's going to judge you. All you need is a computer with an internet connection or the Talkspace mobile app, and you can improve your mental health. Remember that therapy is not just venting about inner thoughts or childhood memories and all that. It doesn't have to be melodramatic. It's about practical everyday strategies for stress management and living a happier life. Having a therapist simply provides you a designated person for you to talk to who's trained to listen and help you make positive changes. And the Talkspace platform has over 2,000 licensed therapists who are experienced in addressing life challenges we all face. To match with a perfect therapist for a fraction of the price of traditional therapy, go to Talkspace.com/beautiful. Use the code BEAUTIFUL. You get $45 off your first month and show your support for this show. That's beautiful at Talkspace.com/beautiful. A podcast team started looking into the biggest hack in history and ended up in the middle of the story. You can find Breach in your podcast app right now, a mysterious voicemail. disappearing audio files, and origami sent from a California prison. The deeper they dug, the more deeply personal the hack became. Breach is a new podcast investigating the world's most notorious data breaches. It takes you inside the world's biggest hacks, how they're done, who does them, and what's really at stake when your private data is compromised. For season 1, the Breach team answers questions about the hack of a huge American company. Found themselves investigating a Russian conspiracy, complete with spies, security agencies, and targeted attacks around the world. Because when you're a hacker with access to 3 billion email accounts, you can steal some credit card numbers, or you can threaten the very cornerstone of democracy. Subscribe to Breach, that's BREACH, in your podcast app right now. Thanks again to all of our advertisers who support Beautiful Anonymous. Now let's get back to the phone call. Hollywood movies about like people trying to settle down and find each other, and you're like, it's just is that just a different approach? Is that part of it? Like you're immersed in a culture that, like, what? Yeah. Tell me about how it separates you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up on American shows, and Friends is kind of my childhood, and I always watch that. And kind of American films, and I guess music-wise too. When I'm 15, 16, I got really into emo music, and I would just be listening to American football or Mineral or the Get Up Kids, and just being like, why don't you love me? So it's kind of my whole and then I found Death Cab, and I had to hide it from everybody because they're like, that's what girls like, or whatever it is at the time when you're 15. But I'm just there listening like, oh man, Ben Gibbard gets me kind of thing. So growing up listening to that kind of music, very sensitive music, and also the values that they have in Western TV or movies definitely shaped the way I see relationships with friends, family, and just romantic relationships. And that was hard because what I see in the families in these Western TV shows was so different from when I go home every day from school. It was just like, they're like mannequins, I mean, I love my parents. Like, I think they did a great job. And I can't thank them enough for them to put me through the education that I was, so blessed to have. But, just to think about all the times when I was down, and when I could talk to my parents or people talk to their parents, I just kind of kept that in this whole time.
Have you ever been to the States? Have you ever come over?
I've been to, I think, it's probably like almost 6 years ago, I went to California for about 4 days to check out the band's Warped Tour.
That's it. You came once for the Warped Tour, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, my parents took me to Hawaii a couple times when I was younger, but for me, it was the band's Warped Tour in California. Was kind of when I was conscious, or I could actually see things, and it was really weird because we had some friends on the tour, so we were kind of on the tour van with them, and after 3 days of this kind of the same lineup, I was just like, hey, I'm in America and I should go venture out. So then I kind of escaped. I think I was in San Francisco, and I just left. And I just went to just explore the town, I guess. And I went into I was like, what's the most Californian thing that I could do right now? And I found a random burrito store, and I was like a Mexican restaurant. Like, maybe this is what I've heard about. Maybe I'll go in here. And so I just go in and I start ordering, and they just think I live around there. So they start saying things like they, I don't know if it's, they just kind of act like I've been there the whole time, but I can speak English, but I've never really ordered in English for food in my life.
What a weird day in your life. What a weird day. Yeah. It's like you're a spy. It's like you're a spy that got dropped in the middle of this culture you've studied your whole life.
Yeah, and I'm being put to the test, and I'm just like, yeah, I think I'll have this burrito with this, and they're like, how about this, how about that, how about that, and I'm like, I don't know, but okay, yeah, sure, and then so I get this burrito with just pretty much like everything on it, and it's pretty much 4 times bigger than anything you can get in Japan. And I'm just sitting there alone, and there's all these, people that are going to Warped Tour with their friends and stuff, and I'm just there alone, just like, how do I do this? And then I'm just like, yeah, how do you eat it? Like, and I'm just eating it, and I can't finish it at all. And in Japan, I don't know how it's like in America, but like in Japan, you don't leave things. Like you have to eat the whole thing. Like that's kind of rule of thumb. And so
it would be rude. It would be rude to leave leftovers.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just stuffing myself with this burrito, and I kind of get lost because I don't have Wi-Fi, and I'm just walking around, and I'm feeling sick, and I get back, and I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I just go back to the trailer, and I'm just, sleeping, and I just miss out pretty much the whole day. And, the other people come back and like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I try to experience, is this America? Am I experiencing it right now? Like, I don't know.
I mean, giant portions, yes, you are experiencing. A burrito bigger than your own head, yeah, that is an American experience. I love that story. That's nuts. That's because I also you're in the burrito shop and they're like, you want pinto beans with that? What do you want? You want brown rice? You want white rice? And you can't, with your accent, you can't go, hey, slow down, bro. I've never been here before. I've never been, because you sound like you're from the Bay Area. So you can't be in San Francisco hey, it's my first time. It's literally the first day I've hung out in the United States. Everyone would look at you like you were insane.
Exactly.
Wow.
And there's a line behind me, and I'm getting all nervous and anxious, and I don't know what to do. So
what a weird day. What a weird day. Because those other 3 days, like you said, so you're in a band as well, huh? You said you play music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're with your friends in the van. But that's a specific life, and it's a very insulated experience being on the van. That's also, I've never been a touring musician myself, but Warped Tour, I have to imagine that's of the scale. Like your food's being provided, you're backstage, you're not out and about. So you grew up immersed in American culture, sounding like an American, and had just a small handful of hours in America where you ate a burrito, gave yourself gas, and had to go sleep it off.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's America for me, I guess.
I gotta say, I mean, if you're only gonna take a few hours, eating a big ass burrito in San Francisco and then passing out because it was too much food is pretty good. Pretty good.
Did I do America okay?
I would say
okay?
I got a lot of friends from San Francisco, and I bet they would say, yeah, go get a burrito. If you only have a few hours to be in America, we like food. We like food in America. We do. We like our regional food. I'm sure. Were you in the Mission? They like their Mission burritos out there.
Terrific burrito, by the way.
Great. Good.
Tasted amazing.
I'm sure everyone listening from the greater Bay Area of Northern California is beaming with pride because they take burritos seriously in California. Wow. This is... yeah, go for it.
I actually went to New York a couple of years ago for a couple of days for a business trip.
Uh-huh.
And that was my first time in New York. It was actually a lot of it similar to Japan, how busy it was and how intense Manhattan was.
Yeah, I've heard. There's a handful of cities, right? It's funny. I've actually mentioned on the show recently. London is that for me, where I go and I'm like, whoa, this place is as fast as New York and as overwhelming as New York. And I hear Tokyo. I mean, the American vision of Tokyo is that it's like a fast-paced, vision of the future.
Mm-hmm. And it felt comfortable that it was like that for me. And then, so I went there for a business trip, and, because I said that I went to America and I wanted to eat a burrito, I wanted to eat a pizza.
Yeah.
When I, going to New York, right?
You got to get New York pizza.
Right? So I'm there with, my boss, and, I can't really be like, I just kind of have to go with the flow. And then we get to the business place or whatever, and they take us out for lunch and dinner. And they're like, oh, yeah, we know this really good place. So we go, because I think their office is in Queens. So we went we went out of Manhattan, went to Queens, and we stopped in front of the store, and the name of it was Osaka. And I'm going, oh man, this is going to be great. So we go inside, and they're like, it's a Japanese restaurant, and they give us noodles. And I'm like, I think it's really great that the Japanese food is, making it over to America. And then I ate it, and, I don't want to be pretentious or anything, but like I couldn't eat it. It was just something that, I grew up on Japanese food, like authentic Japanese food, and it was like not the same thing.
No, that's trash. What a careless, thoughtless, token effort. Oh, someone traveled halfway around the globe. Let's give them the watered down, inauthentic version of what they can have every single day of their life. Outside of this one. Yeah. Very inconsiderate. I apologize.
No, not at all. Not at all. And then for dinner, we also went to a Japanese restaurant, which was so on the last day, we have, in Japan, we have these pubs called izakaya, and that's kind of the Japanese pub. And it's pretty much just like a pub where you just get a beer and everyone just has fun. And there's a bunch of these in Japan. And there was a New York version of that. And they were like, we should go there for the last day. And I was like, well, if I can drink sake, I don't care. So we went to this place, and everything was fine. Everything was great. But my friend actually lived in New York at the time, and he came to hang out with us. And he said, okay, I got to go. I got work tomorrow. So we go outside, and I take him to the station, and I said, bye-bye. And I'm coming back to the bar, and this guy comes up to me and starts talking to me. Very nice guy. And in Japan, that never happened.
Yeah, in New York, that never happens either. What's this guy going for?
So he's like, yo, like, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Japan. And he's like, oh yeah, you look Asian. I was like, yeah, thanks. And so we're walking, and we get and usually I'm not really used to it, and it's kind of nice that people are talking, because people don't really talk to each other in Japan, because in the Japanese language, we don't have a word, we don't have a phrase for have a nice day. So like, we never say that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I realized is when you go even to any restaurant or any store, at the end of the conversation, people will have a nice day. And I'm like, that's so nice. That's great. So yeah. So we're going down, and he's just talking to me, and he goes, all right, my car's parked over there, and can I suck your dick?
Knew there was going to be a swerve on that one. Knew there was a swerve coming. Wasn't sure if it was money or sex, but I knew it was on its way. As a New Yorker, I got it. For anyone in your position who is international, never been to New York City, as a New York resident, I could say, do not be fooled. No one is that nice. No one is as nice as that person in New York.
Yeah, that was my hard lesson learned. But I was like, but I don't know how to react to that. What are you supposed to say to that? So I was just like, you're really handsome, and thank you. I'm really happy that you feel that way about me, but I'm sorry. I'm not, I need to go. So I politely kind of, reject him. Mm-hmm. But I think he took that as kind of like, oh, this guy's really nice. Maybe if I ask a little bit more. So he got kind of aggressive. He was like, come on, man, I'll let you suck mine. And I was like, that's not the problem here.
Yeah, it's not a bargaining to the level of which I'm about to engage sexually with a stranger on the street in your parked car. It's that's not my thing in general. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just having this conversation as I'm walking, and then everybody that was already, the people that were at the bar we're leaving, and my boss is there, right? So, and in Japan, I mean, I'm pretty close with my boss, but it's really still awkward. And he's taking like pictures of me and like movies of me interact with this guy. and nothing weird, but I was just like, man, like last time I went to America, it was the burrito thing. And then now I'm in New York for the first time and this happens. Like I'm getting this is amazing experience that I'm getting right now.
Yeah. Yeah, you've only been here a handful of days, but you've really lived. I gotta say, so you're a punk rocker, but you also work in business at a caliber where they'll fly you to a different country. So you split your time between two worlds that way as well, huh?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the toughest thing is that I work as a translator and I translate films. We try to bring like independent documentaries into Japan. It's kind of like our big business thing, and it's a very small operation, that's kind of my day job. But so I do that during the day, and then at night until like midnight, I go into the studio and do, band stuff, and then on the weekends I'm on tour, kind of thing. So it wears me down a lot. It's kind of the biggest problem that I have right now, actually, is balancing that.
Yeah, that's around the clock. That's a hustle. That's a grind.
Yeah.
And is your band? You think your band, like the band, have a chance of busting out?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've been working at it. The band that I was in when I was still on, when I went to the World Tour, we broke up, and I'm doing a new thing now. But yeah, I think it's good. I really like my music. I think the band likes the music, and it's just that that spark. Like you just got to keep working at it, and then we're just hoping for that spark to hit, and then hopefully we can go from there.
That's cool. I wish you great luck with it.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are with music. And in Japan, it was this is something I want to talk about. I totally forgot about it. Is that I think in Japan, mental health is non-existent. It's not, as in like people are definitely going through that, but it's not really acknowledged in Japan.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah, I've heard somebody else talk about this in a different call that you had, but it's just get over it, just sleep on it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're just having a bad day or you're weak. So when people actually are going through depression or anxiety, it's just a sign of weakness.
Yeah, I know that feeling. And I come from New York where everyone's in therapy. We still get that. I think the sense I get just from pop culture, and again, if it's a stereotype that's inaccurate, let me know. It seems from what you see from the outside, it seems like a very work-driven place where a lot of people work until they're on the brink of collapse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
really is. I mean, it's very true.
That can't be good. That can't be good for the head.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've heard this, but the suicide rate in Japan is extremely high.
I have heard that, and I've heard there's a suicide forest, right? Isn't there a famous place where people go to commit suicide?
Yeah, recently the
YouTuber,
American YouTuber, came here and caused a lot of trouble. But that's serious business there. You go there and you see letters that people write for loved ones. And they say, if you find me here, or if you see this post, please don't come find me. I'm done. And I think people, they go by car because you can't really walk there. But people just leave all their stuff in their car as kind of something to remember them by. And they kind of plan it all out.
Wow. And you would think, are there not police or medical professionals that are tasked with maybe safeguarding it to try to stop that?
There are actually. There's people patrolling the forest, but the forest is so deep and it's so wide, and also one of the reasons why it's so good for. It's bad to say good, but why it's an optimal place for these people is that once you go inside, there's no cell towers, so you can't get any reception in there.
So even if you want to call for help, it's not really an option.
Yeah.
You're just in there with your thoughts.
Yeah, so people can't go in groups. If, let's say, a patrol group goes in like a group of 10, if they split up, then there's no way that they can contact each other.
Right.
So it's just a lot of the times it's just after the fact. They see like a new body.
It also seems like there's more of a, again, from the outside looking in, a history of sort of honor-based suicide that is maybe more pronounced than most places. Is that true?
I think that the whole honor thing is definitely it's fading away in Japan. Now people just commit suicide because they are extremely depressed. Nobody understands them. Also, people don't really get into it. It was on the news, but people aren't dating, so they don't have a significant other in a lot of cases. So it's mostly that now. The honor-based suicide is kind of a little bit back then kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that got intense. That got heavy. I need a breather. I like to take a breather, get a sip of water, and ponder the heavy parts. I was just traveling. You guys have heard me talk about it on the show. I went away for 3 weeks. Longest vacation I ever been on. I went to Sri Lanka, someplace far from my home. And it was a great time. But I tell you, planning a vacation, it can be a little stressful, right? You got to find places to stay that's going to make everybody happy. You got to make sure it's all in the right price range. It can feel like a full-time job. I know this personally because I just went on a vacation. Look, don't visit a ton of different sites. On tripping.com, one search lets you compare every home from the world's top vacation rental sites in one place to find the best deal on your perfect vacation rental. Vacation rentals offer more privacy, more space for everybody under one roof, more choices, more fully stocked kitchens, extra bedrooms. Check it out. Hot tubs too. Even hot tubs. You want to find a hot tub? Tripping's got it for you. All the comforts of home and then some. Best of all, at tripping.com, you can join the millions of travelers who find more savings with rates up to 80% less than traditional hotel rooms. So if you're planning a spring break on the beach in Florida, tripping.com. Can't wait to swim in Lake Tahoe this summer? Tripping.com. Dreaming of sitting on the deck of a Smoky Mountains cabin? Tripping.com. This year, save time and money when you book the vacation home of your dreams with tripping.com/stories. That's tripping.com/stories. Find your perfect vacation rental. Tripping.com/stories. Thanks again to everybody who sponsors Beautiful Anonymous and allows us to bring it to you every Tuesday for free. Now let's finish off the phone call.
Also, people don't really get into it. It was on the news, but people aren't dating, so they don't have a significant other in a lot of cases. So it's mostly that now. The honor-based suicide is kind of a little bit back then kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good. Why aren't people dating?
A lot of times they're like, oh, it's too busy, or they don't have time for it, or like I said, they can get they can release their sexual tension from so many different services that, I think when you are in a relationship with someone, the sexual connection and communication is so important. And they can actually get that from other services for a price. So they don't go out to find, not everybody, but a lot of them aren't just, they stay single.
Right. Your relationship with intimacy becomes warped, I would imagine, if you fall into that lifestyle.
Yeah. Wow. And in Japan, anime is very big, and people are, a lot of them, I wouldn't say everybody, but there's a specific group of people that just don't believe in 3D girls. That's kind of like their motto.
What? What does that mean?
Yeah, so they say 2D is better than 3D.
So there's people who
So which means
they opt into having all their relationships with females be through the fictional,
yes, like a 100%.
and they just don't interact with. These are straight males who just choose to never interact with females because they don't believe in it.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, a lot of it comes from the fact that they believe that girls don't like them, or they do something nice and the girls don't, that they're not good enough for the girls. So it's a lot of self-esteem issues. And also the fact that in Japan, there people that are really into anime are anime. I wouldn't say into anime because a lot of people like anime, but kind of the extreme is they're called otaku. I've heard, people in America use that term too, but there's a lot of that, and a lot of them are communicating through the internet. Something like Reddit is what they use.
Yeah. Is the internet the worst thing we've ever invented? Is it the worst or the best?
It created the worst in us.
It might be the best unifier of humanity that we'll ever know and that could ever be possible. And it might also dehumanize. I don't know. I've probably gone on this rant on the pod. I'm getting progressively more worried that the internet is making us all subhuman. And not in a way, sometimes that gets thrown out as like I feel very bad because sometimes that can be a phrase that's used in like racist circles. But I mean, we actually behave in ways that lack humanity compared to generations that did not have the internet. In ways like you're saying, where we isolate ourselves from actual human connection, or we take on personas that aren't totally true to us, and then we don't know how to live in the real world without those personas.
Yeah, exactly. It's anything that people always say that the internet is something, what's on your mind, like you can say whatever is on your mind, but if you're just throwing out any passing thought in your head, then that's not really you. Yeah. I think there's a lot of vile things said on the internet, but that's not really that person. I think those people are actually, great people, but they're just typing out what is the first thing in their mind without thinking. So it becomes really vulgar.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who knows the thoughts that go through my own mind, I don't need to say whatever's on my mind in a public forum or even out loud, even in a room where no one else is. I don't need to say everything in my mind. No, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. And that I kind of grew up, I think it also really it affected me, like music that I listened to really affected me because a lot of the artists were talking about how, introverted they are and how it's really hard for them to get out what they really think, and they do it through song. And just kind of growing up on that, I embraced the internet for how convenient it is and how easy it is to see music videos and live videos. But I'm definitely, and I use the internet all the time. But
me too.
I'm definitely scared of what it could do to people.
I mean, I talk a lot of shit about the internet for a person whose phone never leaves his hand. I am part of the problem. Now, there's something I need to bring up on my end, and I don't want to, because this has been fascinating. I have to say, Japanese culture is one that I think Americans romanticize and wonder about and sort of find a little, maybe at times confusing or impenetrable. And you've explained a lot of things in a way where I actually am super fascinated. On my end, I will tell you, the Japanese culture I have delved most deeply into, and I wonder if you have any interest in it, is by far Japanese mixed martial arts fighting and to a degree, pro wrestling.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's huge in Japan. I'm not really familiar with it, but yeah, it's definitely a big scene.
It is. And you're not familiar. There's just one thing I want to say that I actually really love. So mixed martial arts, which, a lot of people know as the UFC, there used to be a league called Pride in Japan. I was obsessed with Pride fighting, obsessed with it for years.
Oh, yeah.
And the one thing I love about Japanese and their relationship with pro wrestling is they are aware that pro wrestling matches are staged, but they almost view them as staged exhibitions and view professional wrestling as a legitimate fighting art. And the Pride Fighting Championships, a lot of why it was created was to showcase professional wrestlers in real fights to prove the legitimacy of pro wrestling as fighting. And I think that's the coolest shit I ever heard of in the world.
Yeah, Pride is so big. I don't know if they still do it, but every New Year's, it's the Pride fight.
The massive Pride and K1 fights were the big New Year's thing. I always heard that. Pride got taken down. I think they got busted because they were very tangled up with the Yakuza. And they got publicly shamed for that and taken down. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I didn't see the Pride this year. Was that recent or?
That was probably 10 years ago. But there's a bunch of other leagues that have kind of filled in and emulate Pride. There was Dream for a while. There's a new one now. I forget. Ryzen. There's a few that are kind of continuing the tradition and still do the New Year's fights and stuff like that. Let me ask you a personal question.
I see,
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
So
of course.
You are a romantic. You're a romantic specifically in a sense as defined by Western culture. Does this actually make your dating life, easier or more difficult? Because I'd have to imagine that if you tell a partner, hey, I actually get weirded out at the idea of cheating or paying for sex. Is that something that people are like, oh my God, you're a total catch? Or are they like, wait, what's up with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've never dated a purely Japanese person just because the people that I'm around with is also mixed culture and they kind of have the same value as me. But I think if I was to date a purely Japanese girl, then they would, and I said, I think it's really weird, the blah, 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 and just cheating, they would be definitely impressed, I guess, but I wouldn't fully be able to trust them because like maybe you did that too, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
It would be this weird. Yeah, okay. Well, I have a girlfriend right now, and she's a mix of different cultures, and we grew up in completely different places, but and she lived in Japan a bit, but she also lived in America, and I never did that. But we just share the same values, so I've never even thought about that, So I'm very lucky. But here's the thing about these Japanese girls, and this is something that I see a lot in the bars in Japan. There's Japanese girls fantasize, not too much, but a lot of them really, really like foreigners. So there's a specific chain of a like bar pub thing that girls go to get hit on by foreigners.
That's what it's known for. What's this place?
Yeah.
For any of our listeners who are interested, what is this chain called?
It's called Hub.
Hub. So there's a chain bar. This would be like an Applebee's or Fridays in America, but the point is for foreigners to go hit on native Japanese women.
Yeah, it's not the point. It's not like their selling point, but that's kind of the place that everybody goes. And it's not just foreigners, but you see a lot of them. And when you ask, when people are like, "Oh, where should I go? Like, I'm here for a couple of days. Where should I go?" Everyone's just like, "Just go to Hub."
Wow.
You'll find a girl there.
Wow.
Yeah, and the girls know that too. Yeah, one time I went to a Hub with a friend, and they were talking to this girl, and this girl is super, like, she has no money. She goes there because she knows that she can get free dinner.
Wow, that's sad.
Yeah.
Just
wait. There's something else. In Japan, we have these crazy restaurants where the guy goes into the restaurant and sits with a girl, and for the girl, it's all free. And this is it. Like, this is what they sell. The girls just go there for free. Guys come, they get to sit and eat dinner with them, and the guy pays, and that's it.
Wow, that's the whole thing.
Yeah. It's like the privilege to be able to sit next to, and these girls aren't employed by the restaurant. These are just normal customers, but they just go there to get free food.
Wow. Now, do you feel, because as you mentioned, and it's becoming clearer and clearer throughout conversation, like you're Japanese, but you are also in a way positioned as like an observer of Japanese culture because you were also immersed in Western culture. But then you tell a story about how ordering a burrito became like a very overwhelming process. Is that something that you like treasure or value? Are there times where you resent it? Is it both?
Oh, it's a constant struggle because I think, but at the very beginning of the call, I said I didn't really know what my true identity was, and I'm still trying to find it, but I'm starting to think that there is actually a group of people that are just like me, where they don't know, the fact that they don't know their culture is a culture.
Right.
And once I kind of figured that out, I think I felt a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, there are times when I'm in a very Japanese setting and my Japanese isn't completely to the standards of someone that's in their late 20s in Japanese wise, like the mannerisms. Because in Japan we have two separate types of Japanese. When you talk to somebody that's older, you have a whole new set of Japanese compared to someone that's your own age.
As far as the actual language you're using?
Yeah. It's like, I mean, they're both Japanese, but the end of each sentence or the way you say things there's a whole other thing. It's called keigo. And when that's extremely difficult. It's kind of old school and it's really hard. And when you get a little bit of it wrong, or like you end the sentence wrong in a certain way and it kind of turns into informal Japanese, then it's extremely rude.
Oh, wow. I remember hearing a story, and I don't know if it's just like a myth, but when the Second World War ended and the emperor went on the radio to speak about it, which apparently was a thing he'd never done, and his language was actually pretty impossible to understand for a lot of average people because it was so old school. Does this relate to that? That it's, I don't know.
I don't know if it relates to that, but it is true. After the World War II, that was like the first time people heard his voice, and I was like, whoa. But yeah, it's extremely, to this day, when you see kind of like the royal family talk, it seems like it's very apparent they're from a different era and they haven't moved on from that. And so it is really hard to understand, but that Japanese is nothing compared to the whole informal and formal Japanese is a lot easier than that. Than the really old Japanese where you can't read it or seriously can't understand it. If you know either the informal or the formal Japanese, you don't need to know a whole new set of characters and stuff. But the old Japanese is you can't even read it or you can't even read it out because this doesn't make sense.
Wow. You got an interesting life.
Yeah, there's so many things that I take for granted. And then once I, have the opportunity to talk to you about it, I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't apply to anybody else besides Japanese people.
Yeah, and there's a ton of things that only apply to Americans too, but it's, you're positioned in this very specific way to sort of be like a Rosetta Stone for me to understand a lot of things. It's also, it's also one of these things too, where you hear about, workplace culture or the sex trade in Japan. And you assume oh, I'm hearing the big broad strokes of that. And it's very cool for you to call in and be like, oh no, as someone on the ground who grew up around it, here's what it's actually like to be of this culture. It's cool. It's cool to hear.
Yeah. And I hope that I thought it would be more interesting to kind of go in deep with the dark stuff of Japan. But the other side of it is that because it's so strict, because, the regulations are so strict and people are working so hard, it's probably, compared to America, which I really like the casualness of America, but everything is, starting with, even public transportation, everything is so punctual. Everyone is extremely polite, and it's to the point that people say that they're cold, but as professionals, I think, that's something that we can have pride in, is that Japan is, extremely professional about everything.
Oh, I've heard the legends of the public transportation. As someone who's dealing with what can only be described as a quickly failing New York City subway system, you guys have those bullet trains where you can get it'll be, oh, you need to go 1,000 miles? Yeah, it'll show up perfectly on time and take you 7.5 minutes. I hear these legends about the Japanese public transportation.
Do you guys have, on Google Maps, it tells you from, if you want to get to, point A to point B, it tells you, if you take a public transportation from here to here, you get on this train at this time. Is that accurate when you use that in America?
It's touch and go in New York City. Most places, most cities and most places in America don't have public transportation. It's very much a car culture, but in the cities, especially the major ones, we do. It's touch and go. I'll put that in at my house, and sometimes it'll be like, oh, you'll get there in 35 minutes. And then 2.5 treacherous hours later of being stuck in a tunnel under a river, praying that this isn't when the infrastructure fails ultimately, and trying to decide if I can get into the last car to open a door, if I need to swim with the river in a last desperate attempt to survive. Then I'm like, Google lied. I'm like,
in Japan, lied. You can definitely count on it. You can count on it. If they say, get on this train at this time, it will be there. It will never be late unless there's something, it's snowing or something like that. You can, 99% of the time, there's not some natural disaster, they'll get there on time.
That's awesome. I'm jealous. That's awesome. What do you play? What instrument do you play?
Right now in my band, I play the acoustic guitar and I sing.
Nice. That's pretty great.
Yeah, in my old band, I used to just sing. In my punk band, I used to sing, but now we kind of do an indie rock kind of thing.
Moving on to the indie rock.
It's
nice to hear that as punk rockers grow up, no matter where you are in the world, you switch from punk to indie rock.
Exactly. It's just like hot water music, You just got to go, you do the whole punk thing, and then you go, you grow up.
Yeah, you can't be slapstick forever. You got to turn into the Lawrence Arms at some point. I think that's the band I'm thinking of. Right? Do I have that one right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I feel like we'd be pals. I feel like we'd be pals if we grew up together.
Yeah, that's what I think. Every time I listen to your podcast, every time, when I'm watching the show, I'm like, oh, we could be such good friends. But I'm guessing pretty much everybody that calls, everybody that watches feels that way. And it's crazy that you could actually probably be best friends with most of them.
I'm more awkward in real life than I am on this podcast. Hey, we only have a few seconds left, and I think there's only one appropriate way for me to end it.
Okay.
I want to thank you for calling, thank you for sharing, and most importantly, have a nice day.
Have a nice day.
Caller, thank you for calling. It's super cool. Thanks for letting me ask all my ignorant questions and not getting mad at me. I really do think we'd be pals. And sorry that you had such an overwhelming time during your trips to the States. Hope you come back here someday and enjoy it even more. Get that pizza that you've always craved and not just eat crappy Japanese food. Who would do that? Anyway, thank you for calling. Thank you to everybody for listening. Thanks to Jared O'Connell. Thanks to Harry Nelson, especially for coming over here towards the east side. And recording this one means a lot. These guys helped me out while we were taping the Chris Gethard Show. Allowed me to not leave the office for this one. Thank you to Shellshag for the music. You want to know more about me, especially dates that I'm out on the road? ChrisGeth.com is the website for all of that. And if you like Beautiful Anonymous, one thing you can do to help, go to Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe. I can't tell you how much that helps. That's all the business. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beautiful Anonymous.
Kiss me.
Next time on Beautiful Anonymous.
I had had you on speaker next to my computer as I was trying to work out how to explain consent to high school kids.
Consent, that's your job. Yes, I am familiar, I assure you. I assure you.
Good, I hope so.
Yeah, yes. Oh, right.
I certainly hope so.
That's a pretty important gig these days, huh?
Yeah, I feel like I'm contributing something positive to the world. I really like it. It's actually new. I only started last year, but my previous skill set applies quite well to this job. So.
Well, that's an interesting tidbit you just dangled out there. What's your previous skill set?
Yeah, I spent most of my career thus far as a circus performer, actually.
As a circus performer. Next time on Beautiful Anonymous.
My memory is a mess. More and more stuff's coming back. Came here because I was running.
Logan?
Running from myself.
Logan, please.
But I'm not gonna run again.
No. I'm one of the good guys.
Killing is a sin, isn't it? So I'm a sinner. All right.
Marvel and Stitcher present Wolverine: The Long Night. Out now, only on Stitcher Premium. For 1 month free, go to wolverinepodcast.com and use promo code MARVEL.
This has been an Earwolf production. Executive produced by Scott Ackerman, Chris Bannon, and Colin Anderson. For more information and content, visit earwolf.com.